And for more, we're joined by the former French ambassador to Iran, François Nicoullaud. Thank you for joining us here on France.
Pleasure.
Should we worry?
Yes, obviously. There was a time when we had the feeling that Trump sincerely wanted to speak with the Iranian. He was almost begging the supreme leader to accept a contact, to accept some kind of the opening of a dialogue. But this time is over. Now, with what happened recently, first, of course, the first attacks a few weeks ago in front of the United Arab Emirates shore. This took place a few days after the cancellation of waivers, precisely, on Iranian oil exports. And this really is strangling Iran. You know, up to now, Iran could export about 1 million barrels per day. Now, today, it's close to zero. And so its vital interests are really at stake at the moment. And now...
Which is the argument that Iran's been making, especially in this latest instance. The Japanese prime minister, who's a close ally of Donald Trump, who happened to be in Tehran when the incident happened. They're saying, why would we do this?
Well, the attempt of Japanese prime minister to find a solution, to mediate, was from the beginning. Actually, it was a failure. It had no chance to succeed. First, because Trump himself said it's too soon, to enter into a mediation. And he said this when Abe was in Tehran, which was not very nice for the poor Abe. And then after that, of course, this second attack in the Oman Sea. And then this second attack took place after the introduction of new sanctions on petrochemical exports from Iran. And of course, now, Iran is in an impossible situation. The oil minister, Mr. Zanganeh, said now times are harder than during the Iran-Iraq war, and so they're really strangled at the moment. And
Ambassador Nicoullaud, let's roll this back 1 second here. First of all, you heard the misgivings of Germany's foreign minister. What do you make of this video that we've all seen that was handed out by the Pentagon?
I don't believe it's the smoking gun. It's not quite clear yet. Of course, there are strong presumptions that the Iranians are behind the two attacks. It's logical, if you wish, but we're still missing, as I said, the smoking gun, the concrete proof that the Iranians are behind the two attacks. And it's quite interesting that, in fact, the statements have been produced by the State Department, by the Defense Department, but we have not heard yet the intelligence community. And it's turned a bit backwards, as if they were afraid to be instrumentalized, to be manipulated, as they were, of course, as you remember very well, at the outset of the Iraq invasion in 2003.
Yeah, we remember that claim of weapons of mass destruction brought before the UN Security Council then. In this instance, you have Donald Trump laying the blame squarely on Iran. He gave an interview to Fox News earlier on Friday, but he also said the door is open for negotiations.
He's saying everything and its contrary. Just tweeted, I believe, this morning that it was too soon to even think of the possibility of an agreement. I believe he wants it. Basically, Trump is a businessman. He wants an agreement. He does not want a war. He does not want a war a few months before the opening of the electoral campaign. And he knows that a war is bad for his re-election. Unfortunately, surrounded by hawks who are, in fact, manipulating him somehow, trying to corner him into a position where he cannot back down without losing face. It's creating really a mechanism which is leading in an inescapable way towards war.
So we have seen how France and the European Union have had to, like the rest of the international community, abide by these U.S. sanctions, effectively ending the Iran nuclear deal, of which, by the way, you were one of the ones at the outset of the negotiations of that. What does France do now? What does France do in the face of all that's going on? Does it have to follow the lead of the United States?
I would like to know it very little, in fact. What can France do? What can Europe do? Even if there is a political will on the economic side, I mean, the big companies, they don't obey their governments. The American sanctions frighten them more than any order, any injunctions from their own governments. We're in a terrible situation.
We saw this week the German foreign minister in Tehran. Do you regret the fact that we didn't see the French foreign minister there?
He regretted the fact that
we didn't see the French foreign minister in Iran.
Yes, the French foreign minister was in Iran about 1 year, a little more than 1 year ago, and it did not go very well, let's say, to say the least. And now the time is not ripe really for a visit, for a ministerial visit from the French side in Iran, unfortunately, but this is the reality.
All right, François Nicoullaud, former ambassador to Tehran, many thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.